Hey guys, how are you doing? It's a bit dark because of the bright light behind me. So on Facebook, don't worry, I'll soon get a new iPhone that would zoom in on me and make me look a lot clearer. I hope that works. I'm just a bit dark on Facebook. So I did say I was going to preach 3 sermons this week, and all the ongoings in the world of Big Brother and gossip and breakups and makeups did not allow me to. So big shout out to you, Esther Omorui. How are you doing? How are you all doing? The title of today's message is Ignorance and the Boeing 737 MAX. I want us to upgrade our mind. So I'm going to be using technical things to give examples these days. I'm not just going to do Big Brother examples. I think we've grown past that. So we're going to work with this. I'm going to try to get you into the mind state where we're all supposed to be. But God bless you as you join, and God bless you as you listen. Let's start with a prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the gift of today. I thank you for your mercy. I thank you for your kindness. I thank you for your forgiveness. I thank you for another opportunity that we have to preach your message. And I ask for your understanding to be poured upon this generation. And let our hearts be receptive to this, not just now, but always. In Yahushua's name, I pray. And all the people in the house said a big, big amen. Someone said, I look okay on YouTube. That's the problem. I look okay on YouTube, but nowhere else. Let me see if I move this here. Okay. I thought that would make it better, but it's not really. I'm trying to get a best shot for Facebook, but unfortunately, Facebook is not clear. I tried to switch it around, hoping that I would get some clarity in that regard, but it's not working. But anyway, guys, just mind, at least you can see me. So, I want to talk about the 737 MAX. I was watching, someone here is already here to scatter the message. Peter Ogunimu, who pays you better, Hush Puppy or Suleiman? You can ask your father at home. As you not get work, you can't come here. Instead of make you listen, make you learn, you won't end up like your papa. You want to be a nuisance in old age. You are headed there, and you will get there. Amen? Now get away from here. Don't ever let me see you here again. Hush Puppy or Suleiman call. Hush Mommy or Suleiman ni. Ma Lojo, no be your type that they look for here. Always looking for how to, as in you leave your house and you come on somebody's live and you start thinking of how silly you can be. So, back to some people were saying amen to that prayer. They need it. Now, I was watching a guy called Captain Joe on YouTube. He's one of my favorite aviation. He's a captain, so he understands aviation very well, and he handles some very dicey topics. The 737 MAX is a Boeing plane. Now, there were 2 accidents with the 737 MAX, and about 300 people were killed. Now, how did this happen? Let me explain it to you, and then let me relate it to religion. Please pay attention. Aviation is tricky, but I know you can get it. There are 4. I'm going to buy a model plane because I'm going to be using aviation from time to time to explain things. Let's imagine this is a plane. There are 4 forces acting on a plane. Gravity pulling the plane down. Drag pushing the plane back. Lift pushing the plane up. And then thrust pushing the plane forward. So for a plane to fly, it has to use its thrust and its lift to overcome drag and gravity. So thrust and lift overcome drag and gravity. Does that make sense? Now, there's something called an angle of attack. That's typically how the air that hits the wings, for the plane to generate lift, the air flies over the wings and flows onto the other side. But when the angle is too sharp on the wings, what happens is the air hits the wings, but instead of moving over the wings to create lift, the air is disrupted. So the plane loses its ability to have lift. And what now happens is it stalls and then it drops out of the sky. That is why a plane cannot stand like this in the sky. Planes cannot hover except some specific military planes. A 737 or an Airbus cannot hover. For it to move, for it to not fall out of the sky, it has to remain in perpetual motion unless it's landing on the ground. As long as it's in the air, it must move, and it must move beyond a certain speed, which is called a stall speed. Now, what happened in the 737 MAX? There are little things on the nose of the plane called angle of attack vanes. They point up and they point down, and they determine the angle of attack. So when a plane is taking off, for instance, you see a plane landing, taking off. A plane on the runway is like this, horizontal. When it's taking off, it's like this at a degree. Usually, a good takeoff degree is anywhere between 15 and about 20 degrees. That's a 20 degree. It's called a pitch angle. That's like this is a pitch angle. So a 15 to 20 degree pitch angle is good. If you turn that plane into a 45 degree pitch angle, it will stall because the wings will not be able to generate enough lift and the engines will not be able to generate enough thrust to keep the plane in the air. So what's going to happen is going to stall. So, and why does this happen? Because of the angle of attack. I'm trying to explain this to you in the best way I can. Now the plane is flying in the air. If it has a faulty angle of attack vane, for instance, the angle of attack is measured at let's say at 34,000 feet. You have, say, what the plane is reading is a 5 degree or a 10 degree pitch. Or what you're doing is maybe a 5 degree pitch, but because the angle of attack vane is calibrated wrong, it's reading a 15 degree or a 20 degree pitch, and the plane is now trained to notice any error and correct it. Now, what's the corrective if you have, for instance, you are in a plane and the angle of attack is too high? Well, how do you correct it? Very easy. You let nose down to level, nose down below level, gather speed, nose up to level. That is the recovery. You are in a stall. You understand? You're like this, in a stall. Sorry, I'm expecting a call. Someone's supposed to fix something. Yeah, hello? Yes. Yes, Ileni Moa. All right. So, sorry about that, guys. Imagine this situation. The plane is flying like this, but the angle of attack vane is wrong. The angle of attack is calculating that the plane is like this, right? So what are you now supposed to do if the plane is like this? You are supposed to nose down to level, nose down below level to gather speed. So the angle of attack sensor gives a wrong reading to the MCAS. The MCAS is the software that flies the plane in autopilot. So the MCAS automatically, the plane is like this, but the information that the MCAS receives is that the plane is like this. So the MCAS is now automatically trying to correct the error. So the MCAS puts a plane that is like this and should be like this, puts the plane like this. So the plane is now in a nosedive situation. And guess what? The MCAS is so advanced that a human being cannot override it. So because the MCAS is designed in such a way that if the pilots are in a critical position, the MCAS is supposed to override their inputs and level the plane and take care of everything. Meanwhile, it is the MCAS that is supposed to regulate what's going on that is actually putting them in trouble. So the plane is now nosedive, and there's nothing the pilots can do to recover from it, except a manual takeover. There are two little buttons on the side of the thrust lever in a plane. I took a picture of it. I don't know if you guys can see it. These two little, not buttons, these two little switches. You can see there is written stab trim. Right here, stab trim. You might see it inverted because the camera is inverted, but these little switches here. Now, what the pilot is supposed to do is to just flip those switches to off. What that does is it gives the pilot's control using the trim wheel. So the pilots, once they've switched off those things, they can now manually trim the nose of the plane to get the right attitude they want. Do you understand, guys? So the plane is flying like this. The information fed to the computer says the plane is like this. The computer now takes over the control and puts the plane in a nosedive. And the pilots cannot recover from the nosedive because they don't know that they are supposed to switch off the stabilizer trim and manually trim the plane. And 300 people die. Why am I giving this example in religion? Let me break it down to you. Religion has come like the MCAS came. And it has come to override your thinking. It is supposed to be superior to all the ideologies you have. 2,000-year-old methodologies and ideologies that people in the dark ages came up with in their bid to try to understand God. And the problem with religion is it works like MCAS. It overrides your input because you don't know that you're supposed to just flip those stabilizer trim switches and disconnect yourself from this situation, and then you're able to trim your plane and prevent the nose down. This nose down is what we're seeing in Africa today. I'm going to take this a little further. Now, Boeing designed this so wonderful MCAS system that it wanted to make it as easy as possible for pilots to transition. Boeing did not even give pilots training. He just believed that this MCAS is so wonderful. Just trust it. Just get into the plane and fly. So very few pilots actually understood that you could override the system. Many pilots, according to a report that Captain Joe shared, many pilots did not even know that there was an MCAS system. They just got these beautiful new planes and boom, the plane starts behaving abnormally. Nothing you know how to do can correct it, and before you know it, you are on the ground, everybody gone. Now, take a look at today's Africa. You've been given religion. You've been taught that believe it, this is how it is. Don't question it. Don't worry, it will take you everywhere you're going. Someone said, were they not told in training? They had no special training for the 737 Maxes. And why? It was also politically motivated. Guess what? Airbus came out with their own planes, and Airbus had sold about 7,000. So Boeing it was all marketing. They just came up with this beautiful idea, which was good, except every idea has its own flaws. And all they needed was a faulty AOA, that is angle of attack vane. The angle of attack gave it a wrong reading, and the plane decided to take over control by itself, and before you know it, Africa was in a nosedive. Sorry, I mean the 737 was in a nosedive, but Africa is in a nosedive. Nigeria is right now in a nosedive situation. And nothing your leaders, religious or political, can do to stop this nosedive unless someone can teach them to switch off the stabilizer trims. But they didn't go to the school. They were not taught how to handle it. So you have a religion situation that is like MCAS. It was not created out of anything except marketing. Airbus is selling more planes than we are. Let's give them MCAS. And with this MCAS situation, in my humble opinion, people's lives were lost to the point where for quite a while, 737 Maxes were grounded. Nobody could fly them until they went back to the drawing board to fix the issue. Let me take this back to religion one more time. You've been told that Jesus is God. I was having an argument with a Catholic priest a couple of days ago, and we're back and forthing. He said, yes, Jesus is God. Jesus. I said, no, Yahushua. I don't know who Jesus is. Jesus is a creation of the West. I know Yahushua, HaMashiach. And I'm like, he's not God. The Bible doesn't say he is God. There are instances that lean towards your suggestion that he's God. But there are also many more instances and more logical instances that lean away from him being God. So you cannot categorically choose one side and then impose that side upon the church forcefully. The guy's like, no. That what we're taught in school is when it comes to the mystery of God, that don't try to understand it. I'm like, no, you don't say that. Don't say mystery of God, don't try to understand it, because clearly there are things there are scriptures that are debunking your mystery of God. Matthew chapter 27. Christ tells God, why have you abandoned me? How can God abandon God? Christ used his own mouth to say God is greater than him. Christ used his own mouth to say he does not know when the world will end. Not even the angels, not even him, only the Father knows. So there are things Christ does not know and God knows, but God is Christ. So there's so many. You can't now just decide to create a mystery for yourself because it's politically suitable and it gives your religion more bounce. No, you can't just superimpose that and then expect us to throw away this, because okay, if you now say Christ is God, that means we have to throw away some parts of the Bible and render those parts of the Bible useless. I'm not saying the argument that Christ is God does not carry any water at all, but it is not enough proof for you to establish it as a doctrine upon the church and then create a mystery. What you now end up doing is create an MCAS system that is faulty and is putting your religious faith in a nosedive, and nobody can correct it because nobody was trained to know where the stabilizer trim, which every pilot knows where stabilizer trim is. They just don't. It's like, let me give you an example. It's like the electricity in your house goes off, but you can only correct it by switching on the tap in your garden. You don't dedicate? Okay. So the only way you can solve the problem, do you understand, is by, who would think of it? Who would think of light in my house? If I want to have light in my house, I have to go and switch off the water tap in my garden. Nobody would think of it because nobody was trained along those lines. Nobody was trained to think. Sorry guys, hold on a second. Let me send him a gate pass so I can continue. Just 1 second. Perry Solutions. That's my guy Perry. Always order some stuff from him. Buy direct from USA, so he just brought my stuff. So so I'm gonna round off in a few minutes. I need to show you some scriptures and discuss these scriptures with you, but I'm rounding off now. Let's compare religion to science. I remember watching Formula One in the 90s, and they were trying to create an automatic gear shift system that shifts the car into the right gear depending on the speed the car is going. So what they did was they put the sensor on the back wheel. Now they have a problem. The car is in a corner on a wet road. The back wheel is spinning at 200 at 150 miles an hour. So the back wheel is sending a report to the gearbox that it is traveling at 150 miles an hour. Meanwhile, because the car is slipping, it is only traveling at 60 miles per hour. At 60 miles per hour, the gear that the car is supposed to be in is gear 4. But because the car is spinning and it's calculating a speed of the spin, which is 150 kilometers per hour, it gives the car gear 7. So all of a sudden, the car is selecting a wrong speed based on calibration of a rear wheel that was actually not traveling in the velocity or at the velocity it was supposed to be traveling. What did they now do? Here's how science works. Science corrects itself regularly. Science took the sensor from the back wheel and moved it to the front wheel. Now the front wheel, the car is a rear wheel drive car. The front wheel is actually moving at the right speed the car is supposed to be moving at. I don't know if you understand this analogy. The back wheel, because of the torque and the engine, is spinning faster than the road because the road is slippery and it's in a corner. So the wheel is spinning. The wheel is spinning at 150 kilometers per hour, but it is not moving forward at 150 kilometers per hour because it's skidding. So the gear is calculating the gear for 150 kilometers per hour and giving it gear 7. Meanwhile, the car is traveling at much less velocity and needs a lower gear. When they move the sensor to the front wheel, what now happens is the front wheel has no torque from the engine. It's being pushed by the back wheel. So it gets a more accurate calculation for the speed of travel and a better gear is selected. Do you understand that analogy? Today, they don't even use sensors on the wheels anymore. They use more advanced things like radar and all sorts of more advanced things. That's what science does. Today alone, hold on a second. Yeah, hello? Okay, I'm sending you gate pass. Someone is coming to fix sockets in my house, so let me send him gate pass too. Whew. That's how it's hard for me to preach during the day, but I will preach this preach. I will finish it. Oh dear. So this is how science works. I woke up this morning and I saw an iOS 14.8. iOS 14.8. I updated this phone and the iPhone 11 to this new iOS. Why? And guess what? iOS 15 is down the road. They're working on it. They're trying to get it to be better. Sorry, let me send the gate pass. There are 2 people coming to see me now. I don't know how I'm going to stall them, but I'm going to try. Someone said, what is gate pass? For people to come into my estate, there's a computer generated gate pass that if I send to them, they'll just scan at the gate and the gate will open for them automatically. Some of us live in nice estates. Thank you very much. Okay, back to what I was saying. So with science, they took the sensor from the rear wheel because they got a wrong reading to the front wheel, got a better reading, and then eventually moved the sensor to the dashboard or to anywhere else using radar now to calculate this. And before you know, they're going to even use GPS. That's where Tesla is. So every day, science is breaking through. Look at vaccine technology. Every day, science is breaking through. Religion is force-feeding you some BS that somebody decided was his ideology of God in the 5th century BC, AD, and that has remained unfixable, unchangeable, has been turned into a faith. I don't know if I'm making sense to you. You, like the 737 MAX pilots, did not receive that extra training that when the plane is in a wrong attitude, you should take over manually. I want to ask you, how much manual flying can you even do? Many of you were trained with the Bible as your MCAS. You were trained to allow it to take over. And that is what it's been doing. And you've been led to ridiculous states. A pastor wake up and say, if you steal the money of a church, you go mad. When I was growing up, I used to steal 1 naira from my father. If I saw my father's wallet, I just steal some of those small money to buy coke. I don't run mad. I can't thief God money, can't run mad. Sorry, one of the guys is here. Wow. Yeah, hello?
Hello, Sam.
Okay. 1 second. How far, bro? Share rush. Mo wa nu session kan. Share le fún mi 15 minutes. Ọ̀nà yín jù. Okay. Màá ṣí Benz yẹn. Ẹ kàn load ẹ̀ sínú boot. Just small box. Okay. Mumbo. Awesome. Let me open the Benz boot. Shotishi. Okay, ẹ kàn fi síbẹ̀ má tì láti bí. Ẹ ti fi sínú ẹ̀. All right. OTT. All right, ẹ ṣé. Okay. Sorry, guys. Send me your account number. Oh. All right. Welcome back. I'm so sorry about that. There's another one waiting, but at least I bought a few minutes. So, back to my analogy. The plane is like this, flying normally, but the sensor is saying the plane is like this. So, the religious MCAS overrides everything and puts the plane like this, and the pilots cannot correct it because they don't know how to. Daddy Freeze has come, and Daddy Freeze's job is to show you where the stabilizer trim buttons are. All you need to do is flip them off. That's all you need to do. Switch your mind back on. Stop listening to all these mindlessness that has become the faith of Africa. And Africa, listen, I was watching, I posted something on my page yesterday. With all our preaching, 5 to 10 churches on every street, Nigeria is topping the charts in P-Hub. I don't want to say it so that they will not come and be monitoring my account unnecessarily, all this Instagram censor. With all our 5 to 10 churches on every street, Nigeria is second to Jamaica globally when it comes to paternity fraud, aka Nedu fraud. Sorry, wife of Nedu fraud. With all our 10 churches on it, with all our 10 churches on every street, we are the poverty capital of the world. Our currency is so low compared to the currencies of the countries that don't practice religion the way we do. So what is the benefit of religion? We don't love ourselves. We're not better people. We don't live in a safer land. There's so much bickering. And so at the end of the day, what has happened is the MCAS system that religion has created to fly our plane is not working. But religion has been programmed to override manual input. So you can't override religion because you don't know that you have to switch off a part of your brain and open your eyes before you can get into that mode. So people are crashing along with their religious beliefs because of this ignorance, and they're ignoring the clear warnings of scripture. Let's study some scriptures together. Please forgive me for all the interruptions. I didn't intend for that to be. I think my kids are coming home. 1 second, let me just make sure the kids are fine. Okay, kids are home. They'll be all right. Go with me to your scriptures. And read with me Acts chapter 17 and verse 30. God overlooked people's ignorance. God overlooked people's ignorance. In earlier times. But now he commands everyone everywhere to repent of their sins and turn to him. If you read this from verse 16, while Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was deeply troubled by all the idols he saw everywhere in the city. He went to the synagogue to reason with the Jews and the God-fearing Gentiles, and he spoke daily in the public square to all who happened to be there. He also had a debate with some of the Epicurean and Stoic philosophers. The second guy is here. Yeah, wait for me. I'm coming downstairs now. When he told them about Yahushua and his resurrection, they said, what is this babbler trying to make with these strange ideas he picked up? Now, if we go and read verse 24. Sorry, verse 22. Very, very important. Here's the verse. So Paul, standing before the council, addressed them as follows. Men of Athens, I notice you are very religious in every way. For as I was walking along, I saw your many shrines, and one of your altars had this inscription on it, to an unknown God. This God, whom you worship in ignorance, is the one I'm here to tell you about. The God you worship in ignorance. I want us to read Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6. My people are perished, or my people are destroyed because they lack knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge. What is lack of knowledge? Ignorance. How deadly is ignorance? Ask the Boeing 737 MAX Q crew that could have flipped 2 switches and rolled, what is it called? The trim and stabilized the plane. That is how quickly ignorance killed. Guess what? One of the planes that crashed, the pilot was lucky enough, flight handover. The guy who flew the plane had a similar problem, but he was smart enough, or he was lucky enough to switch off the stabilizer trim and trim the plane manually, and everybody was fine. So the lack of knowledge of 2 switches and 1 wheel, the trim wheel, is what killed 300 people. That is how quickly ignorance kills, scripturally and logically. I want us to study another scripture. Acts chapter 14 and verse 14. Please just open Acts chapter 14 and verse 14. But when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard what was happening, they tore their clothes in dismay and ran among the people shouting. What really happened? What made the apostles shout? Let me break it down to you. When the crowd in verse 11 had seen what Paul had done, they shouted in their local dialects, these men are gods in human form. They have decided that Barnabas was the Greek god Zeus and Paul was Hermes, since he was the chief speaker. Now the temple of Zeus was just outside the town, so the priests of the temple and the crowd brought bulls and wreaths of flowers to the town gate, and they prepared to sacrifice to Paul and to Barnabas. This ignorance is the same ignorance that is in today's world. Your pastors cannot be wrong. Meanwhile, they're so wrong. The whole faith is in a nosedive. But you see them as gods that need to be sacrificed to. You don't even care about the real God anymore. You just care about those who peddle the words of their God or their ideology and market it as God. This level of ignorance is not only deadly, is disastrous. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 18. Their minds are full of darkness. I want you to say this with me wherever you are. Their minds are full of darkness. They wander far from the life God gives because they have closed their minds and hardened their hearts. That's reading it from the NLT. Let's read it from the NIV. The NIV says they are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts. Nothing hardens the heart of man like religion. Religion would give you a solution to a problem it created, and the solution is a false solution. It is exactly MCAS. There's no problem. The plane is like this. The angle of attack vein is what's giving the wrong the wrong reading. So the MCAS calculates the plane to be like this. Religion is creating the idea or the illusion of a problem, and it is now solving the illusion of a problem with a real problem. The plane is like this, flying perfectly safe. It is religion that read wrong. Religion now tilts the religion is calculating that the plane is going to crash, the plane is going to stall. The plane is not going to stall. People are not going to go to hellfire for all the nonsense you're saying. Nobody's going to go to hellfire for not paying tithe. Nobody's not going to go to hellfire for not sowing seeds. There's no problem. The plane is fine. Look at someone beside you and tell them the plane is fine. But religion doesn't see the plane as fine. Religion sees the plane as nose up. Religion sees the plane as about to go into a stall. Religion sees the plane as, oh my goodness, the plane is going to crash. The plane is flying fine. You're the one seeing the problem that doesn't exist. And to correct the problem, what does religion do? It does exactly what MCAS did. Puts the plane in a nosedive. Plane is fine. I want to ask you, between when we had traditional worship in Nigeria and now that religion came, are we more or less morally upright? Are we more or less wealthy? Are we more or less better human beings? Did we have a better, safer country? You will see that the answer is yes. Before religion came, there was no problem. Oh, a few people here and there were worshiping idols. The religion that you brought, is it not idolatrous? Where people go and touch the chair of a GO to be blessed? Where people would turn away from the way of God and follow the words of a GO who himself does not know what he's talking about? The plane is fine. The MCAS is the problem. And the ignorant pilots that are flying the plane that don't know that they must detach from the MCAS that is supposed to save them and is overriding their inputs because it has turned them off. So the plane is fine. It's flying fine. Religion is reading the wrong reading and believing the plane is like this. And to save a plane that is like this, that religion thinks is like this, religion now puts the plane like this, and then nobody is enlightened, knowledgeable, or wise enough to realize that religion is the problem, and all they need to do is switch off religion and go back to logic and tilt the plane back. Africa is in a nosedive. Africa was fine until religion came. Perfectly fine. A few mistakes here and there. Yes, the plane had an AOA, angle of attack vein error. Simple problem. It happens all the time. There is a checklist for it. It was Fine. But then religion came with panic. No, oh my God, the plane's like this. Oh, the plane, the angle of attack is too high. The plane's going to enter a stall. We need to do an automatic recover. Shut everybody up. We are going to do this with faith. Oh my goodness, let's save the plane, and boom. The next thing is, boom, 300 people gone. 2 planes, same scenario. Many of you don't realize, you think religion is solving your problems. Meanwhile, you had no problems until religion came. What religion did was religion miscalculated you and created a problem for you. I never allowed prophets to tell me I had a dream about you, I dreamed this about you, this revealed. Shut up! I don't despise prophecies, but all Nigerians do is prophesy. So you need to realize that you were okay. There was nothing wrong with you. You don't have any issues. The issue is the religion that is misjudging you. I know someone who told me a story of his cousin that was in this church that they don't watch television. The guy was a promising footballer. His parents refused to allow him to play football. Why? They said it is wrong and it is sinful for him to be running around in short knicker. That if exposing his leg is of the devil. This is how a career died. There was nothing wrong with this guy. There's nothing wrong in women wearing trousers. There's nothing wrong in tattoos. There's nothing wrong in all these things that they've made you feel are problems. What they did was they took a perfectly normal plane, made you feel that the plane was in a dangerous, precarious situation, and to correct a dangerous, precarious situation that does not exist, they created a dangerous, precarious situation and killed you all. I love you all. Hope you enjoyed my video. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and don't forget to share this video. Let more people be enlightened. God bless you. I love you.